The 2022 Mazda 3. I've spent some time in a few fourth generations at this point, a premium manual hatchback and a carbon edition sedan. And while the polymetal gray metallic is a clean look in both the sedan and the hatch, soul red with black trim pieces take this car from high class to badass. Not to mention an all-wheel drive system and a turbo. Let's talk about the interior, the exterior, how this car drives, and what it competes with.
So the first thing I want to address is, what does this thing actually compete with? Is it a hot hatch? Does it compete with the WRX, the GTI, the Elantra, and other hot hatches and sport compacts? Is it the second coming of the Mazda Speed 3, or third if you count the Focus ST? Or is it more of like an entry-level luxury car? Does it compete with something like an ILX or an A3 or something like that? And according to the owners I talked to, it's kind of all of the above. They were cross-shopping all of those cars because the interior does kind of punch above its weight class, and it does have that nice big turbo kick, so it could kind of go either way. It's not a bad thing, it just makes it a little tough to categorize is all. Dynamically, I will say it is not as good as something like a GTI or the other hot hatches. You can still have fun on a back road, sure, and it kicks really hard, but it's not as good dynamically. The turning radius feels a little bit wide for something that is so compact, and there's definitely a lot of roll to it. If you really take your corners hard, I think that sway bars and tires and probably bigger brakes would go a long way with this car. But if you wanted a car that you could go to autocross or go to the track or whatever right out of the box, you're gonna want something more like a GTI or a Golf R. That being said, the steering is it's got a little bit of weight to it, which is really nice. Not necessarily communication, it doesn't really tell you exactly where the tires are, but it does have a little bit of weight, and that feels pretty good. And in normal mode, it can get you off the line nice and composed. It'll get you up to speed quickly, but in a smooth manner. And then you pop it into sport mode, and the throttle response is just much more immediate, and you can really feel it kick right out of the gate. It'll hold the gears a lot longer as well, and it'll put a huge smile on your face until you do the little crap face, because you look down and you're like going 100 miles an hour. You got your speed monitoring here with your sign recognition that'll tell you that you're going way over the speed limit. Got a little subtle red line here on the speedometer as well that'll tell you how far over the speed limit you're going. Hopefully you'll notice that before the police notice you, and at the same time you can kind of feel your fuel economy tanking. Seem like your fuel economy is pretty bad, but at the same time I'm getting 26-ish with mixed driving. That's 26 miles per gallon mixed city and highway, driving a little bit aggressively sometimes and backing off other times, so it's pretty mixed. One guy said that he was getting close to 30. Everyone else said they hated the fuel economy, but there was one guy that told me he was getting close to 30 in the city. So I think if you baby it a little bit, if you can keep it out of sport mode, then you can probably get some decent fuel economy. In our engine, it's a 2.5 liter Skyactiv engine. It is 4 cylinders with a turbo, obviously in the top 2 trims, the turbo and the premium plus. And either way, we've got and we're looking at 320 pound-feet of torque, 250 horsepower. That is if you use premium. If you're using regular, and you're down to 227 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque. Definitely still plenty good for the daily drive. But either way, we're made it to a 6-speed automatic. So I know a lot of people wanted this car with a manual, and from my research, I found basically the way that the torque curve is on this car, with this powertrain, you hit your peak torque around 2,500 RPM, and then the torque kind of drops off. And when you're in a manual, that's not really what you want. You want to be able to wring it out and have consistent torque all the way up, as you're going up the RPMs. So in order to do that, then they have to also re-engineer the powertrain. And so that wasn't going to happen. There just isn't enough demand for a manual hot hatch for them to build a new powertrain for it, unfortunately. To that same end, we do have paddle shifters, but they do feel like kind of an afterthought, feel a little bit cheap, plastic, and they're not super responsive. It's a little bit sluggish on both the upshifts and the downshifts. But again, if you want to wring it out, then your torque is kind of dropping off. So it's fine. I'm glad it's there. You can play around with it, but definitely seems like a bit of an afterthought. But either way, while you're flying down the road, we've got the lane keep assist shoving you into your lane, which gets a little bit annoying, but it's there. And it'll vibrate at you and ding at you. We've got the blind spot monitoring as well. One thing I've noticed is that at least the inputs aren't super annoying. The alerts aren't super annoying. A little bit of vibrate is fine, and the chirp when you're getting out of your lane or when you hit your turn signal and there's somebody in the other lane is pretty, it's not like a blaring alarm. I don't mind it so much, but it does get a little bit old after a while when it's shoving you into place. But it also has that traffic jam assist, which is basically like a radar cruise or an adaptive cruise for low speed, and that is only because we are in the Premium Plus, and that's the same with the traffic sign recognition that shows your speed limit and all that. That is only because of the Premium Plus. But the heads-up display is there either way, and that heads-up display does show you your speed limit and your radar cruise settings if you set your cruise control. As far as visibility goes, we're pretty compact. It's a hatchback. It should have pretty good visibility, but the visibility out the back is not super great. The window's kind of small. At this point, everybody probably knows about the C-pillar back there. Creates kind of a big blind spot. I've actually had some issues with the B-pillar as well when you're at sort of like an acute intersection. The B-pillar is kind of right there in the way from my seating position. I know I sit a lot closer to the steering wheel than a lot of people do. As far as ride quality goes, it's definitely better than the Sport Compacts and the hot hatches. It's got better ride quality than my Mark 7 GTI. It's got better ride quality than the Elantra and the Civic Si by a lot, but it's not quite at luxury levels of comfort. We do have 18s on here, 18-inch wheels with pretty thin tires, thin sidewalls, so we're feeling those bumps, but the suspension setup is not so stiff that you're getting jabbed through the back every time you hit a bump. It's just not quite at the levels of luxury, so it's kind of somewhere in that gray area. And the same goes for noise. It is not super loud in here. It's not anywhere close to something like a WRX or a Civic Si. Definitely not quite levels of, luxury car.
The interior is one of the biggest pluses I hear from Mazda owners, and this Mazda 3 continues that trend. The turbo trim gets you leatherette in either black or greige, a name that I thought I would never have to say, and I hope I never have to say again. And the Premium Plus gets you real leather in either black or red. The Carbon Edition I drove had the red leather if you want to see what that looks like, but you can't pair red leather with a red exterior, so we have the black here. It contributes to a minimalistic look along with the black trim everywhere and a little bit of glossed black that will be covered in fingerprints and dust just by looking at it for more than 3 seconds. Soft touch points all around. Seats are comfy with light bolstering and power adjustable lumbar support as well as heat. No ventilation available, but I would have loved to have seen that on this 90-degree week. The passenger gets a manual seat. The steering wheel is thin and comfortable. I like a beefier steering wheel when I have a sportier car, but this one is perfectly fine. Simple buttons and switches on the wheel for voice control, volume, adaptive cruise, and this info window in the center of this simple and sleek looking instrument cluster. The traffic sign recognition shows here if you're in the Premium Plus. It also shows in the heads-up display along with current speed and your lane departure warning. Infotainment is a nice wide screen controlled by knobs and buttons down here, nice and smooth, and I love the split screen setup for Android Auto. I'm going to eat my words from the Miata video about how I wish it were a touchscreen all the time. Once you get used to it, it does become much easier, and the owners I talked to all said they don't think they could ever go back to a regular touchscreen. Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are both wired, and we're pumping through a 12-speaker Bose sound system. No matter which of the two turbo trims you pick, could use a little bit more bass, but otherwise it sounds really good. Cup holders up here out of the way in front of the shifter. Back seats are 35 inches, which is about on par with the GTI, but it does feel a lot more cramped back here for some reason. I fit here fine, but I fit in almost anything at 5'7". Rear facing seats will work in a pinch if your passenger has the seat all the way up in an unusable position, and even front facing seats are very tight. If you're at any level of tall or you have tall passengers in the back, there will be lots of complaining. And behind the rear seats is a solid 20 cubic feet of space. The exterior, of course, is painted in one of the best colors in cars right now, Soul Red Crystal Metallic. You're going to want to protect that paint as it is very thin according to the owners, but it pops even better with the black trim all around. The black spoiler and front air dam are standard on the Premium Plus trim level, and the black 18s are standard in either of the turbo trims, and they're wrapped in all seasons either way. Memory mirrors with integrated turn signals, and they'll tilt for you when you go into reverse. Manual folding required and no heat in these mirrors. A small moonroof comes on either trim, a nice touch. Signature LEDs and LED daytime running lights. These are auto headlights but not auto high beams. They do make for very good visibility at night though. LED tails in the back along with a dual exhaust. At the end of the day, it's not really a hot hatch, it's not really an economy car, but it's not really quite luxury either. It's a nice compact all-wheel drive daily driver that you can stomp on every once in a while. It doesn't look half bad either.